Donald Trump is still the sun on which the planets of the GOP revolve around. You could see it quite well here. Look at this. Trump endorsees one Senate primaries. If the person that he endorsed is not an elected incumbent, like Darlene Graham was, since 2022 or 2022 was about 95% of the time, has that weakened it all this cycle? No, it has not. It has actually gotten stronger. Look at this. 100% of the time, if Trump endorsed a non-elected incumbent like Darlene Graham, they in fact won the Republican primary for United States Senate. Trump's name is still the one that GOP voters buy when it comes to Senate endorsements.
He went there, he spent money, he made a difference. And according to some measurements here, may have turned it around for her.
Yeah, I would say that this is probably the endorsement of Darlene Graham, and getting her across the finish line in the Republican Party is probably the strongest sign of Donald Trump's name being gold in Republican primaries to date. It's by far his most impressive performance, because just take a look here. It's according to the Kalshi prediction market. Chance to win the South Carolina special GOP Senate primary. Before the Trump endorsement, it was just 14%. Just 14%. The reason why Darlene Graham won that primary, won that nomination, is because of one name and one name only: Donald John Trump. This was his most impressive endorsement to date in terms of getting someone actually nominated, because she basically stood no chance. Once that endorsement came in, her chances rocketed well north of 50%, and last night she won that nomination.
And it's largely because Republican primary voters are hugely supportive of the president.
Sometimes we have these polls, and they're favorable polls or approval polls, and they're in the moment, but I just love this one. Okay, the president Republicans most admire. It's Donald Trump. This is a historic comparison. A majority of Republicans say, 53% say, he's the Republican president they most admire. Ronald Reagan, who traditionally has won that much, Donald Trump nearly triples up on this. Reagan at just 18%. And then Abraham Lincoln, who by most historic accounts is the greatest president of all time. But Republicans say that the president that they most admire by, what is this? This is 6-7 times as many, Donald John Trump at 53%, easily crushing Abe Lincoln at 8%. And the Elon poll showed that he was the greatest president as well, Donald Trump.
I feel like this slide might end up on a printout on his desk sometime soon if he hasn't seen it already. Harry, in terms of who the president is endorsing, what we have going forward, what races are still out there?
Yeah, okay. How about in North Carolina, right? No. Or New Hampshire, not North Carolina.
It's the North Carolina of New England.
That's right. It's the North Carolina, New England. Chance to be the New Hampshire Republican Senate nominee. John Sununu, who Trump has endorsed, a 97% chance. Scott Brown, 3%. That matches the polls, according to the Kalshi prediction market. These odds are.
What do New Yorkers think about him?
They like the guy. They like the guy, and it's not just that they like the guy a lot more than they did a year ago. I mean, take a look here. Mamdani's favorable rating in New York City. You go a year ago, it's 44%. Look where it was at the beginning of his term. It was 68%. You might think, okay, that's a sugar high as he's coming to office. But look now. It's 69%. There has been no drop. He is still on the honeymoon period. This is an extremely long honeymoon period. Americans wish they could have honeymoon periods for this long, but Mamdani is still very popular in the city as he is implementing his agenda.
And it's not just in New York City when you're talking about Democrats, at least.
No, you talk about Democrats and you talk about Zohran Mamdani, and those Democratic voters nationwide, they like the guy. They like the guy. Look at this. Okay, net favorability rating among Dems nationally. Look who's at the top of the list. It's Zohran Mamdani, plus 54 points. Better than AOC at plus 47. Better than Hakeem Jeffries at plus 27. Chuck Schumer has real popularity problems even among Democrats. He was only at plus 10. But among Democrats, Zohran Mamdani is arguably the most popular modern-day politician who's actually currently in elected office, beating all these folks. If you're a Republican, you'd be much better off going after Chuck Schumer or even Hakeem Jeffries than going after Zohran Mamdani, who still is very, very popular, at least with the Democratic base.
With the Democrats, what about overall? How does he fit in there?
Okay, that's a great question, Johnny B. All this whole thing, Republicans, we want to run against Zohran Mamdani. We're going to show those pictures in New York. We're going to talk about Democratic socialism, Zohran Mamdani. But look at this. Net favorability rating among likely voters. Yeah, Zohran Mamdani isn't doing too hot to trot at minus 5 points, but he's more popular than the Vice President, J.D. Vance, at minus 15 points, or the President of the United States at minus 16 points. The bottom line is this. Zohran Mamdani is more popular than the politicians that are front and center for the Republicans, considerably more popular than Donald Trump, who I think is actually going to be the one that most voters are going to be basing their vote upon. Not the mayor of New York, but if they were, that's much better for Democrats than it would be for Republicans, at least in terms of basing your vote on the President of the United States.
And there is one metric of popularity. I have to say, it may matter more to President Donald J. Trump than a lot of people. You know, how popular, what impact? What's one way to measure what impact Zohran Memdani has in the country?
How about Times Person of the Year? How about Times Person of the Year? You know, Donald Trump has won that before, but take a look here. Memdani's chance to be in 2026 Times Person of the Year. We're going to do that right up there. Times Person of the Year in 2026. Look, he's leading the pack. He is leading the pack at this point. That is what's so unbelievable. His chance to win something that we know Donald Trump's like to win might be the ultimate pain point for the President of the United States.
When we talk about AI, we're sort of seeing it going at both parties right now. Who do people say they trust?
Nobody. They hate everybody. That is what's going on. That is why you're seeing these flippity flops when it comes to AI and these politicians, because look at this. Trust more in AI. 21% say the Democrats. 23% say the Republicans. And then look at this. The clear majority, the clear plurality, 51% say neither party. I think a lot of these politicians thought, hey, AI is the future, but a lot of Americans are very concerned, and that is why you are seeing these politicians move much more into a AI skeptical camp.
Yeah, from both parties going after each other. What do people think is going to happen with jobs?
Yeah, this is the reason why I think a lot of people, you know, there are a couple of reasons why, but I think this is one of the big reasons why a lot of people are concerned about AI. Think AI will lead to fewer jobs in the U.S. over the next 20 years. Look at this. By every age group, 73% of those under 30, 74% age 30 to 44, 72% age 45 to 64, and 65 plus, which has the lowest percentage, still more than 3 in 5. This is universal. This is across age groups. This is across partisan groups. What we are seeing here is a lot of fear that AI is going to take jobs away from Americans. No wonder that a lot of folks are skeptical of AI.
What else are we seeing in terms of concerns there when you look at age and stuff?
Yeah, if you look at age, right, you might think, okay, the youngest of folks, the ones who are on their phones, their computers, the ones who might be able to take the biggest advantage of AI, if in fact they're able to do so. But look at this, more concerned about AI than excited. Among those under the age of 30, in 2021, it was 31%. Look at that number, up like a rocket. Now, 55% of those under the age of 30 are more concerned about AI than excited. Johnny B said it. Wow.
And of course, there are these companies that are fueling this AI boom right now. What are the prediction markets saying about how they're doing or what they might do?
Yeah, I think this is, you know, sort of the inverse, right? The chance that OpenAI announces an IPO before June of 2027, according to the Kalshi prediction market, 76%. So I think, or in the upper 70s, I should say. What I think you're seeing here is essentially the folks see the AI companies making a whole lot of money, and they themselves thinking, you know, we're going to lose jobs. And that, I think, is one of the big reasons why you're seeing this real backlash against AI.